I have elf ears.
Nice. Welcome back to Ever Disney Movie Ever. My name is Jess and I'm watching Ever Disney Movie Ever. Today, Mariah is here. She's back because today we're talking about the Santa Claus 2. Number 2. I haven't had a guest since I started the new format. So, this is kind of gonna be like, So, basically I've already filmed the parts where I talk about, like, each thing broken down, and Mariah and I are just gonna do, like, the opinion section and talk about the movie. And we'll see how that goes, because I have no idea what a guest video would look like if I had a person for the entire technical part of it, so let's see. The Santa Claus 2 is a 2002 theatrical release. The film is directed by Michael Lembeck, cinematography by Adam Greenburg, editing by David Finfer, music by George S. Clinton, and it's written by Don Reimer, Cinco Paul, Ken Daurio, Ed Decter, and John J. Strauss. The film stars Tim Allen as Scott/Santa, Elizabeth Mitchell as Carol, David Krumholtz as Bernard, Eric Lloyd as Charlie, Judge Reinhold as Neil, Wendy Crewson as Laura, and Spencer Breslin as Curtis. It was filmed in Vancouver and Barnaby. It was announced that it was being made in 2000. It has a 56% on Rotten Tomatoes. People thought it was predictable and forgettable and not as good as the first one. But it did have a $65 million budget. It made $172.9 million in the box office, so that's why it got a third one, obviously. So there were actually some really great long shots in appropriate moments. The one that I can think of most notably is when Scott and Carol are on the little sleigh ride to the party. There's a two-shot of them in the sleigh where Carol is like kind of talking about something very vulnerable, and they stay on that for a really good chunk of time, and then when they do cut, they just cut to a little bit closer up, like, of each actor. So I really enjoyed the pacing in that scene, especially the decision to stay on that shot for so long. So I thought some of the editing choices were pretty good. I think the music was a little too much, but when the toy soldiers come in and like start taking over, there's a chorus, and it's very like, oh. Like, it's very deep and dramatic, and that made me laugh, so let's talk about the concept of this movie a little bit. So the whole concept, okay, is that Scott cannot remain Santa if he doesn't find a wife. Just think about it for a second. Ew. Right? Ew. First of all, promoting heteronormativity. What if he wants a husband? What if Santa wants a Mr. Claus? Okay? Just saying. What if Santa wants a non-binary Claus? Okay? Like, what? Promoting heteronormativity, but what else is new in Hollywood media? The other thing, 28 days to find a wife. No. I would be like, alright, well, it's been nice being Santa. Bye. No. And then there's a scene, the first scene where Scott is back and meeting with the principal, with Laura and Neil, with Charlie. It's like which, like, we talked about in the first one, how he didn't do any growing. It's like he reverted completely back. It's like he wasn't Santa anymore. He was so rude to Carol in that scene. Like, Mariah and I were cringing, and I'm sure we'll talk about it because both of us were like, oh no. Like, it was unwatchable to see how rude he was being. And then it's like, the next time Charlie's in trouble, he's like, Mr. Dad, like, great dad, great punisher. Like, and then, like, the scene where he gives the gifts to the teachers is so sweet and so moving. So it's like, where did that scene come from? Where he's, like, totally rude and totally awful in, like, no, I couldn't deal with that scene. The one thing I will say is I'm really glad they chose to have him tell her that he was Santa before she agreed to marry him, because I hadn't seen this movie in a really long time, and I thought he waited until she was like, yeah, I'll marry you, and then he's like, great, I'm Santa, can we do it right now? So I'm really glad that happened, but also 28 days? No. The only thing I have to say under this category is I was so excited about the Molly Shannon cameo. I miss Molly Shannon. I love her. She was so funny. Her little dance. Oh man, it was good. She was wearing a t-shirt of Santa. That was great. Or a sweater of Santa. That was fantastic. Otherwise, Tim's really good at being a turd. But he's also good at being heartwarming and whatever. Okay, bye.
Well, I mean, obviously I've seen this movie quite a bit. Because I was quoting it. And I feel like compared to the first one, it's better. There's like less qualms with it. Mm-hmm. So overall, I liked it.
Yeah, I definitely, the Mariah quoting the movie was the best. But the best part was when she said, not even like before or right after, in perfect sync with Spencer Breslin, the decertification process has begun! I was like, that was the best. Hilarious. I love that. Compared to the first one, I don't know. Because the first one was, he was so awful in the first one, and he didn't grow at all in the first one. Where, like, at least in this one, he is Santa, so now he's not as bad. Although that scene in the principal's office for the first time, it's like he completely reverted back to old Scott Calvin, where he was totally rude.
Which makes sense, because he was the desantification, like...
Right, but then all of a sudden, he's, like, giving presents to teachers and is acting like Santa, even though the desantification process has happened. Yeah. So it's like... because he was totally rude in that scene with the principal, Carol. And then, like, immediately after that, the next time Charlie gets in trouble, he's like, can we get him a punishment that doesn't take him out of school? You know, something so, like, in helping her and, you know, doing the teacher's gifts and stuff like that. It felt very... I don't know, it just... That scene felt so out of what they've established him to be as a character now, that I was like, what are we doing? That's icky. But considering the first movie was way more of that and less of the Santa stuff, like the giving the presents to the teachers, I feel like I am inclined to like this more than the first one, because there is a lot more like sweet Christmassy scenes, like Charlie with Lucy. Yeah. Come on. That's cute. Mm-hmm. I'm inclined to like this movie more. I just hate the concept of this movie. Yes. I hate that he has to have a wife, period, to be Santa. That's icky. Yeah. Unnecessary. Or a spouse in general. Even it just icky. Why does he have to have a spouse to be Santa? That's silly. It makes no sense. They just wanted him to have a wife, I guess. And then the whole 28 days to find a wife thing is also icky on top of it. They couldn't have given him like a year to find a wife. It's a little bit more digestible. It had to be 28 days.
I mean, like you said, you know, 90 Day Fiancé even has more.
90 days. Like, yeah. And the whole, like, you've known me your whole life, it was very sweet. I love the sentiment behind it, but at the same time, it's like, it's like, that wasn't him, technically. Right. That was a different Santa. And also, don't use that to get her to marry you.
Also, there like, little, like, plot holes, even in that idea, is, like... You know, Spencer, he's like the number 2 elf. What's his name? Curtis. So he's the number 2 elf, and he has been the number 2 elf, or so it seems, for
900
He's
years.
900 years old. So he's probably not been the number 2 elf. But he is the keeper of the rules and the keeper of the books. And it has been years since he has been Santa, and why is he only bringing this up now? And also, how did he not know that sooner to, like... all the previous Santas before that. Or even Bernard being like, because he's the one who, you know, brought up the first technical clause of like, you are now Santa. You put on the coat, you are Santa. Well, here's the second, like, why wasn't that?
Yeah, also, why was there, you bring up a good point, because in my brain, for some reason, because it's been like a year since we did the first one, I've been thinking it's only been a year of him being Santa, but that would make no sense. He's done multiple Christmases. So what was the, like, he obviously had time to find a wife. Right. What was that window? He had, did he have 8 years to find, why 8? He had 8 years to find a wife? Did he have 5 years to find a wife? Like, what what's the timeline here? And
Right.
why is it that timeline?
Right.
And, like, no. Bernard and Curtis would not miss that. And just, there's a good chunk of plot holes in that one. In the whole concept of the movie. So, like, I love a lot of the heart it has, you know, some of those very sweet scenes, especially between Charlie and Lucy and stuff like that. But the concept of the movie is flawed.
Yes.
And there's parts of the movie that are, I'm like, Tim Allen, why are you like this?
But it was sweet, like, seeing those characters come back. Like, seeing Charlie grown up and, like, what he's like. And, like, it was a little fun. Like, he's on the naughty list. Like, what do you mean? Santa's child is on the naughty list? Like, no way. And seeing Neil again and all his stupid sweaters.
I know, when she asked his opinion because he's a therapist, and he was like, well, I have several ideas. And you're like, no, Neil, no.
You know, like, that was sweet, I feel like. And then bringing in all those other characters, like, mythical characters, like Father Time and Mother Nature and the Tooth Fairy and the Easter Bunny and all that kind of stuff is fun.
Seriously, though, how long has it been since he became Santa, though? Because Lucy said she's about to turn 7.
Right.
So it hasn't been, like, a number of years that makes sense for him to start the desantification process.
Right. I do think it's worth mentioning the, like, mention of Buzz.
Oh, yeah.
You are a sad, strange little man. Which is funny because it was coming from the toy Santa.
Yes. Which,
so.
For those who aren't following, Tim Allen plays Buzz Lightyear. So
Yes.
for him to do in another Disney movie,
right.
You're a sad, strange little man is a fun little nod for sure, especially coming from a toy.
Right.
Very cute.
Yes.
They also said the word Buzz, but it was done in Santa's got a little buzz.
Yes.
Sense and less of a Buzz Lightyear sense. But yeah, no, I agree. The Toy Story reference was fun. The Toy Santa, so random. I love it. I feel like it's so funny when movies have to, like, on top of this very beautiful heartfelt plot, they have to have, like, this stupid villain plot. like all the, like, dog movies where it's like you have such a beautiful, like, little dog plot going on over here, but then you have the dog catcher. So dumb. You don't need it. You don't need the dog catcher plot. Just, like, as much as I understand the Toy Santa plot, and it works a little bit better in this situation, you didn't need the Toy Santa plot.
Right.
It just filled time a little bit more than anything.
Yeah.
But
and was, like,
it's fine. It's not the worst, you know, dog catcher plot, I would say.
Right.
I refer to them as dog catcher plots because that's more often than not what it is. But so this one, like, makes a little bit more sense than normal dog catcher plots, but I think it's not necessary to tell the story for sure, because the whole point of the story
Absolutely.
is for him to find a wife.
Yeah.
So they could have spent a little bit more time, like, on him finding a wife and less time on the Toy Santa. But I get that they wanted to add, like, an extra conflict. Instead of, like, he's not going to make it back in time, or he can't make it back because he doesn't have magic in time. Now we're adding, once he does get back, he has to, like, defeat his toy self.
Yes.
Which is stupid, but it's fine.
Right. You were, like, so uncomfy when it was, like, the falling in love was happening. Because you were so fixated on that, like, short timeline, and you're like, no. This is so cringy. Like, how are they already saying they're in love? Like, so bad.
You know? I was more at the beginning because I was still under the assumption that he was, like, gonna trick her into marrying him and then be like, surprise, I'm Santa. Like, or I thought, like, she was gonna be full-fledged in love with him and he was gonna be like, surprise, I'm Santa. And then it's like this whole, like,
yeah, like bait and switch.
So I was pleasantly surprised when he was like, hey, actually, I'm Santa. And she was like, you're a lunatic. And I was like, that's believable. I buy it. So then it took a while, and then when Charlie went to get her, I was like, oh no. He sent his son to sell the message. So yeah, I was uncomfortable multiple times just because I'm an adult now, so I don't forget that it's happening in 28 days. But, like, that happens. We'll watch movies now, and I'll be like, it's been 24 hours, and they are in love. And Mariah will be like, oh, you ruined it.
Yep.
You know, or it's like, it's been 2 weeks. How long has it been? Why are they in love? Like, what's happening? Like, I hate that it automatically has to be like, we're in love and we're together forever. Like, it could just be like, hey, I'd like to continue this with you. Like the proposal. Marry me, because I'd really like to date you. You know, like, that is icky. That 4 days. You know what I mean? But, like, the only reason he says, will you marry me, is because he wants to keep her in the country so they can date. Because ideally he wants to date her.
Right.
So, like, that I'd be more on board with, where he's like, can you marry me so we can date and I can remain Santa? Like, that I'd be more like, okay, could always get divorced later. That's fine. But, yeah, no. Probably because I don't have the experience of falling in love with someone in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
It's all very, like, unrealistic.
I mean, I definitely know there have been people that have, like, love at first sight and spend the rest of their lives together.
Right, but they're the exception, not the rule.
Right, exactly. Which is why I think, in my cynicism adulthood, I'm very, like, I see people in media fall in love in 28 days, and I'm like, no. No, he was just so rude to you in a room 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And now he did all these magical things, which is very cool. And he's Santa, which is also very cool. But, like, not only is he not gonna look like that forever, he's about to change the second you agree to marry him.
Also, when she meets him, he's still sort of Santa looking. And then the next time she meets him, he's thinner and no beard, but, like, grayish white. And then the next time she meets him, he's, like, normal looking. Tim Allen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So really, he's not gonna look the same.
Yeah, so, it did make me uncomfortable, because I was like, never. I have a note somewhere that says, 28 days to find a wife? No thanks. I would have been like, alright, well, I guess I'm not gonna be Santa.
Good luck finding a replacement.
Well, I would have made the movie that was, I'm Santa, I'm allowed to make the rules. So, like, I would have pulled that one, you know, like, am I Sultan or am I Sultan? Okay, so what would you rate it?
I would probably rate... What? What are we doing?
Oh, I don't know. Crunch bars?
Crunch bars. Sure.
Or reindeer.
Or elves.
Or it's gotta be something I can find a transparent image of, so... presents, baby dolls, toy Santas, toy soldiers. Crunch bars. Crunch bars.
Crunch bars is good.
Crunch bars.
So I'd probably rate it 7 crunch bars out of 10.
All right, my final rating is 6 crunch bars out of 10. So not too horrible, pretty average.
And makes sense.
Yeah, makes total sense. Our total movie count is somewhere on the screen, and Parent Death and Cry count are still the same. If you want to keep up with the movie watching when, follow me on Instagram Twitter. You'll find out what movie watching when. I put up videos every Monday, Friday, and sometimes Wednesday. Can't follow Mariah anywhere because she's mine. Not that she's property. She is her own person, an individual, but I hawk her. Thanks. Okay, until next time, comment, like, subscribe, but I'm not in charge of your life. You are, so you do, and don't be Toy Santa about it.
Absolutely. Totally.
I didn't remember that.
And they're, what is that, the Goose March? What is that?
Goose stepping.
Goose stepping. That's close.
They're not full-fledged goose stepping, but they're pretty close.
Yeah, they are.